Why are they talking about eliminating Tommy Moreno? Mundo Mendoza called him pound for pound one of the most dangerous men in the organization. Who made this guy? Who gave the authorization? Who was his padrino? And it's the largest family in the organization today. And all other neighborhoods would target them. Hey folks, my name's Rene Enriquez and you're watching Uncensored. This isn't an aberration. This isn't a singular family that it happened with in the Mexican Mafia. This is a number of families that have dynasties. But the first one we're going to cover is the Moreno family. Like there's the Aguirre family, there's the Grajeda family, and there's a couple other families that have multiple members in the Mexican Mafia. If you haven't noticed, there's a lot of nepotism in the organization and cronyism. So if you don't know what nepotism is, it's like the inclusion of family members in a business, right? And the Mexican Mafia is fraught with that. In fact, after the Grajedas, they swore they were never going to make another relative of a carnal, but there they went and made Robert from La Habra, who was Aguirre. He was a cousin of Richard and Psycho Aguirre. So it's going to continue. It's always been and always will be. It's been done in kingdoms, in businesses, in government, in politics. It happens everywhere. There's always that favoritism. And the Mexican Mafia is no different. So make no mistake, it's alive and happening in the organization. But the biggest dynasty, and probably one of the stablest, was the Moreno family. The individual, starting on the left, the individual in the dark glasses is Eddie, Big Pelon Moreno. He was actually one of the founders of the organization. And Mundo Mendoza called him, pound for pound, one of the most dangerous men in the organization. And I didn't know him, but I did know the next person, Jesse Pelon Moreno. In fact, it was Jesse Pelon Moreno that I met with at a Mexican Mafia member's house and took a call from Benjamin Topo Peters. That was my crimey. It was there that I received an order to eliminate a Mexican Mafia member, which I carried out and served almost 33 years for. So I knew Jesse Pelon Moreno. In fact, he went to a barbecue at my house, and we had a meeting at my house, at my father's house, when he was living in La Puente. And so I knew him well. He was a connection of mine. He was dealing heroin, and I met him on the streets, knew him from the streets. He met my family, and I knew him okay. The one I knew better, though, was the next person, which is Mike Moreno. He's third from the left. Mike Moreno was one of the easiest going brothers I ever met. Totally laid back. I remember at a time in Folsom where politics were flying. This is when the Kilroy Vivito thing was going on, and they were creating dissension within the organization. I remember talking to Mike, and he said, just chill. He says, just stand by the sideline and watch what happens. And it was true. I never seen him get frazzled. I never heard him raise his voice. I never seen him abuse a camarada. Probably one of the most dignified and easygoing guys in the organization that I met. And I really liked him. Because there were carnales that acted superior because I was a younger carnal. But Mike didn't make me feel that way. Plus, he was from my hood, right? He's right next door in Norwalk, and I'm from Artesia. And the next person is Pete Moreno. That's Pete Moreno, who was in Arizona State Prison. Eddie Moreno was the first member made in the Moreno family. Then there was Jesse Moreno, Little Pelon, and Mike Boo, and then Pete. Those are the four individuals. In fact, here's another image of Eddie Moreno taken on the streets, presumably. I'm assuming that this was taken on the streets because you don't get sombreros in prison, right? At least not in my era. You didn't get sombreros in prison. So this is Big Eddie. In fact, like he was a dangerous man, according to Mundo Mendoza. And again, a founder of the organization. And here's another image of Jesse Pelon Moreno. This image was taken in AdMax in Florence, Colorado, the federal prison there, the maximum security prison. Jesse was indicted in the United States versus Alex Aguirre et al. And received a life sentence for his RICO activities. This was the first RICO indictment ever brought against the Mexican Mafia in 1995 when Ernie Chuco Castro flipped and acted as an FBI informant. He received a life sentence, and most of the Mexican Mafia members were sent to ADX in Florence. That's Florence, Colorado. Supermax of the Rockies, they call it. The next is Pete Moreno. Pete actually went to Arizona in 1979. He was arrested, went to Arizona on a murder charge, and was doing a life sentence there. In fact, he's a self-made man. In the literal sense of the word. He went to Arizona and made himself a carnal. He did not have sanction to create the Mexican Mafia in Arizona. In fact, when I was in 2904 in the county jail, after I picked up my stabbing in Los Angeles County Jail, I was receiving missives from Güero Sherm, Jaco Padilla, and Turtle from Colton about another individual from the Arizona mob, Jaime Tinoco, or James Maciel, Payaso from Corona. They wanted to sponsor Payaso into the organization, and they said that he was running with Pete B-Boy Moreno. And Pete B-Boy Moreno, being one of the individuals in Arizona who represented the California Mafia, was that was the faction that we supported. Because there were two factions there. There was the new Arizona Mafia and the old Arizona Mafia, which was Pete Moreno's faction. So it goes that Pete goes down there and starts his own organization because he has three brothers already from the organization. He has Eddie Moreno, who was a founder, Jesse Pelon Moreno, and Mike Bobo Moreno, who were already made carnales. Jesse goes down there and starts carrying the flag, but he runs into controversy. Jesse goes down there and starts carrying the flag, but he runs into controversy. The person who pushed the issue hardest was Cuate Grajeda. Cuate Grajeda questioned, and this was Cuate's get down, much like Fox Tapia's get down. When somebody's made, he questions their bona fides. Who made this guy? Who gave the authorization? Who was his padrino? That's what he did to a lot of brothers. In fact, that's how he eliminated Adrian Salmaron, vamp from Pacoima. But he did this to Pete Moreno. But we knew Jaime Tinoco, so we supported the Pete Moreno faction. And it was most of the younger brothers that opposed this. And I think part of it, too, the reason Cuate backed off of Pete Moreno was that he knew the power of the Moreno dynasty. If he took on Pete and tried to have him eliminated or put on disregard, then he would face the wrath of Mike Bobo Moreno, Jesse Pelon Moreno, and another brother who I'm going to mention in a minute, because they were still carnales, and he backed off. But Pete did go to the ringer, and we did get the Arizona faction recognized because it wasn't recognized. It was always talked about, and we knew about the New Mexico faction and the Texas faction, which we immediately disregarded as not authentic carnales, right? They were emulators, what we called emulators. They were copycats, in a sense. And we didn't want this to happen to Jaime Tinoco and Pete Moreno. And I basically supported Pete because I knew the Moreno brothers. I knew two of them personally. And I liked them. They were okay with me. I didn't have any political differences with them. They weren't politicians. Jesse Pelon Moreno wasn't a politician, and Mike Bubu Moreno wasn't a politician. And for those who ask, I don't know how he got the scar. I remember he told me the story, but I don't remember how Mike Boo got that scar on his cheek. But I supported Pete because of my loyalty to the Moreno faction, and I knew that Wedo Shai got along good with these guys. So anybody that Shai supported, I supported. That's how our voting block worked. And I stuck to that. Even though Shai was in the feds, I stuck to that. And we got Jaime Tinoco made a carnal. We supported it, and we got the Arizona faction recognized. That wasn't an easy thing, but I just put my support behind it and let the other brothers do the work. In this picture, you'll see Pete as he looks today. Pete is still in the custody of Arizona Department of Corrections. He's still locked in the SMU, the Security Management Unit, which is akin to the SHU in California. I know that they still have differences with the new Mexican Mafia. And I received a couple comments that it's on site with the old Mexican Mafia against the new Mexican Mafia. And I don't know what the reality is of that. I'm not an expert in the Arizona Mafia. I just know that I have had experiences with them. So don't take my word on the Arizona Mafia as expertise, because it's not. It's just my subjective experience with corresponding with these guys. I did correspond with Pete Moreno, I think on one or two occasions. Another individual by the name of Alacran, and Jaime Tinoco. Jaime Tinoco has since been released. He gained parole from the state of California, and he's living his best life now. So this is how Pete looks today. It gives all of his vital information. Doesn't give anything sensitive. It's on a public website. You can go see it yourself. That's Mike Bubu Moreno standing next to his brother Eddie's coffin. That's Eddie, the big Eddie Pelon, one of the founders of the organization, who overdosed in San Quentin State Prison. He died as a result of taking pills, I believe. And that's Mike Boo at a young age, standing next to his brother's coffin. And if you think about, the exposure that this family had to the mafia was when they were kids. All of them were exposed to the mafia. In fact, with that many members as being brothers, you figure the influence would be strong, and it is. It was. Mike Boo eventually became a carnal. He was the third member of the Moreno faction to be inducted into the organization, not at this age, at a later age. But that's him standing next to Eddie's coffin at his funeral. The next brother to be inducted into the organization was T-Bug Moreno. T-Bug Moreno was inducted into the organization. In fact, I remember T-Bug. I was in West Valley Detention Center, and I was in K South, I believe it was. It was a location where the United States Marshals contracted with the San Bernardino Sheriff's Department and rented out bed space. So they would take witnesses and active defendants in cases and house them there. And they separated the active Mexican Mafia members and gang affiliates from the cooperating witnesses by one tier. So they literally lived right below me. And I remember I was a porter there, and I would see T-Bug, and I would see Perico was there. Periquito, Periquito. He was there. A lot of them were there. A lot of them were there. And they would see me. And all that separated us was a gate. A gate. And it was controlled electronically from outside of the housing unit. The cops popped gates without even seeing who was on the tier. There were cameras, but a lot of times they just popped the gate. So there was a great chance that at some point they were going to pop the gate. Another carnal that was there was Coco Zaragoza, Coco from 18th Street. I saw him too. I saw all these guys, and they saw me. I didn't hide who I was. They knew exactly who I was. I mean, I had a big old black hand on my chest, and I didn't wear a shirt to hide. I mean, I knew what time it was, and they knew what time it was. And I was ready. I had little self-defense devices stashed everywhere. Funny story was, I would stash these devices on the tier while I was housed there with T-Bug and Perico and Coco Zaragoza. And one guy, who's my buddy, Ruben Palomares, there was one big club that I had, right? It was a brush, but it was a massive club, right? That's what I intended it for. And I would hide it in the showers above the shower door. Ruben would turn it in. He would turn it in. And I told him, I said, bro, we're going to need, some self-defense devices here if these gates pop. If it's not me on the tier, who was ever on the tier at the time is going to get whacked by these guys. And these guys are killers. This is serious, serious business. This is not a joke. And Ruben told me, the Lord will protect us. And I said, bro, we need a weapon. Ruben told me, the Lord will protect us. And I said, bro, we need a weapon. And he would turn them in. He would turn in this club every time. The other things that I stashed around the tier, he didn't know about. And I wouldn't tell him, right? I didn't want to put him in that position. He was a devoted Christian, and he might have turned them in, and I just didn't want that, right? I didn't want to put him in that position. So T-Bug gets made and becomes the newest member of the Moreno Dynasty. So there are now 4 active members currently today in the Mexican Mafia who are Moreno brothers. There's Jesse Pelon Moreno, there's Mike Bobo Moreno, there's T-Bug Moreno, and there's Pete Moreno. These guys are 4 active Mexican Mafia members, and it's the largest family in the organization today. It's a significant thing because they had never been politicked on. They had never been politicked on in the past. They were squeaky clean. Their bona fides was strong. Their family history was strong in the organization. And I never heard anybody talk bad about them. Not once. In fact, I've never heard anybody ever speak bad about Jesse Pelon Moreno. This is Jesse here in his cell at ADX in Florence, Colorado. Jesse's always been squeaky clean. He was a businessman. He took care of his personal affairs. He adhered to the Mafia code. He still walks a main line in federal prison. And there are very few members that walk a main line, and he's one of them. I think he's close to 80 years old now. And this is a picture of him in his younger years when he's still looking quite healthy. And I just never heard politics about them at all. Never heard politics about them at all. And it wasn't until Mike Moreno became involved in controlling yards. Mike Boo Moreno became involved in collection of taxes. He was involved in a couple of indictments. And he started involving himself with Fox and other brothers. And his name was put out there a lot. In fact, Mike Boo was the first one to be politicked on. And I remember that they said he was on disregard, he was on the lista, and it was all behind Fox's doing. This is Fox's dirty politics, right? In fact, there are some people who still say that Mike Moreno is on disregard. In fact, this whole family is from Sanger, California. They're from the hood, Norwalk, California. But their family lives in Sanger, California, adjacent to Fresno, California. And they controlled that territory completely in the past. But I learned that other members are now involved in controlling Fresno, California, which is indicative that the Moreno family no longer controls that area. One of the areas that they controlled with an iron fist was Norwalk, California, and that still remains true because of T-Bug's involvement in the daily operations there. The next individual is T-Bug Moreno. T-Bug Moreno was involved in all the politics. Like, he wanted to be known. He wanted it to be known he was Mexican Mafia, whereas the other brothers before that didn't. They did not want the limelight. They stayed in the background and they stayed in the shadows. But T-Bug Moreno is a contemporary Cardenal, part of the Pepsi generation, if you will. He's one of those guys, right? The brash, in your face, we don't care if we're caught kind of guy. In fact, T-Bug was the next individual to be politicked down in the Moreno family. And in fact, those politics are still active today. The politics against Mike Boo Moreno and T-Bug Moreno are still active today. I want you to listen to a call that he had with his sister about activities in Norwalk, California. This is Thomas T-Bug Moreno and his sister, Mary Lou.
Hello, Moreno.
Hey.
What's up?
Yeah, I want to know what's up.
What happened?
Huh?
What happened?
What's going on?
Huh?
What's going on?
Nah, just right here. I just finished talking to Margie. She was telling me what you were telling her or something like that.
No, I haven't talked to Margie at all.
No? Well,
I haven't talked to Margie at all.
I guess she was telling me what Lena told her or something.
No, I told, the one who I told off was Rocky.
And what happened? What happened with Rocky?
You know what's going on.
What happened with Rocky, though? What happened?
Okay, I guess he's trying to pull stuff over there in the neighborhood that is coming from you. And all you're doing is jeopardizing my grandkids over there.
Did she just say jeopardizing? Jeopardizing? Illiterate
How am I jeopardizing the grandkids over there?
By asking what you want. What do you want from over there?
What I told them, and I told them guys from right there from the one-way, is the same thing. They got to stop all that drive-by shooting, all that
What
stuff.
else?
This past.
What else?
That's it.
So this is important, right? And this is like 10 years after the fact that we initiated the concept to stop drive-bys in Los Angeles, right? Everybody remembers that. Chuco Castro, Pee Wee Aguirre, all the brothers were involved. I was involved in the county jail. In fact, we came up with the concept of it. It was Little Mo from White Fence that came up with the concept, actually, and I pushed it to Chuco Castro, the guy who flipped in the first RICO indictment, United States of America versus Alex Aguirre et al., where 13 Mexican Mafia members were indicted. We came up with this concept to stop drive-bys, but it continued. It still happens. And it happened then. In this call, what T-Bug is trying to do, this guy is trying to re-emphasize that in Norwalk, because there was a war between my neighborhood and his neighborhood. They've been bitter enemies for years. And they've been shooting each other and killing each other for a long time. And that's what he's talking about here. But note the authority with which his sister is speaking. Almost derogatorily, in an authoritative manner. Like she has some juice. And to be honest, that's not how the mob works. But it's a sister, I get it. He's giving her latitude. I understand that. But it's a sister, I get it. He's giving her latitude. I understand that.
That's it? Not asking for nothing else?
Not asking for nothing else.
Okay, then the one who's living there in Mama's is putting more to it?
Well, yeah, he didn't tell me about nothing about asking for nothing. He just told me to talk to a guy from Carmela. The guy's going to help him out, try to stop some of that stuff right there, and that's all he said. Now, if them guys want to do something, look at Maryland. All these neighborhoods out here, all of them, every one of them that you see, not just Carmelas, Norwalk, Artesia, Paramount, Dolphin, all the neighborhoods send money to people. All of them. It's no different.
So he's talking about tax collections. When he says they send money to people, what he's saying is they send money to Mexican Mafia members, the representatives who control those areas, right? Those are cardenales from Cela, southeast Los Angeles. A lot of people call it Cela, right? And there are multiple cardenales, inducted Mexican Mafia members from southeast Los Angeles. And he's speaking the truth right now, but he's speaking that on a recorded line. Again, like, I get it. You have to communicate, but you have to have some discretion. T-Bug has none.
Melas is no different than Norwalk. Everybody helps out, tries to help out somebody that's locked up.
Yeah,
that's just the way it is.
They're willing to help somebody from their neighborhood.
No, it don't work like that. Don't work like that. Their neighborhood isn't the guy
who's taking care of Artie? I'm the one who's taking care of
No,
Artie.
I'm talking about in prison.
The Artie they're talking about, I believe it's their nephew. Don't get it confused with Artie Guzman. Artie Guzman from King Cobras. Artie Guzman defected from the organization years ago and is currently housed in SMY and Donovan, San Diego, California.
In prison. Like what? I mean, anything that he would do, anything that he would do wrong in there. If it wasn't for
The one right now who needs help is him. They're trying to pin all kind of stuff on him only because he has uncles that's in jail. That's the only one that he's going through a lot right now.
Very new. Believe me, Michael is there. I got homies that are there. It's not just like,
The Michael that he just mentioned is Mike Boo Moreno, the made Mexican Mafia member, his brother.
where anybody's getting him in this phone. Maybe over there trying to do his own thing, trying to hustle, trying to make $1 on that main line. And he's using our
They're saying that they need money for Mama. Mama gets her checks.
Who?
Mama. Mama don't need no money.
I ain't nobody saying
Mama
something
gets her
about
check.
Mama. Who's saying something about Mama?
Mama's taxes get paid if Lena and Rocky pays rent. That's how Mama's taxes get paid. But because they haven't paid no rent, that's why Margie don't have no money for Mama's taxes. Okay, they're saying over here that my mom needs money.
Who's saying that?
Huh?
Who's saying that?
They're saying over here in this neighborhood that my mom needs money. That's why they're asking for money.
Yeah, I don't know nothing
Okay, I
about
don't
that
know
part.
why they're putting Mama in this, but you know what? I don't like it at all, Tommy.
But
Okay?
let me tell you
And
something.
let me tell you
first.
this, Tommy. If anything ever happens to my grandkids, because they're living there, and because my brothers are asking for something to be paid, that's where I'm going to come back at you guys. Okay?
Mary, let me tell you something.
You tell me.
What we're trying to do, what I told Rocky to go out there and do, and I told my own homies, Fidel, to tell those guys, we're trying to stop them guys from going back and forth shooting at one another.
Those guys are not doing...
They killed two guys from Norwalk this past. They killed two guys from Norwalk.
I want to be honest here. Mary Lou sounds quite the drama queen. She sounds like she's making up potential scenarios that could go wrong to make herself feel important, so she can talk down to T-Bug. And that's what it really sounds like here. Like, T-Bug can tell her, look, this is none of your business. Stay out of it. Bottom line. But he's not doing that. He's giving her latitude because it's a sister. I get that.
This past Norwalk.
Norwalk is going over there shooting.
Mary Lou, they killed two guys from Norwalk this past month. Two.
They did?
Two. And that's why I told Rocky go over there and tell them guys to quit going over there to Norwalk. And I told the guys from Norwalk, quit going over there instigating with the guys from Carmela. Leave that shit alone. If you guys want to do something, if you got a problem with somebody from that neighborhood, you deal with it personally. All that driving by and shooting people and all that, it's not something that we're going to allow anywhere. That happens everywhere.
Going over there and dealing with it personally, that was the original order that we came up with. Like, look, we're not asking you guys to stop the gang violence. I think that would be an impossibility, right? And everybody agreed to that. But rather than going doing drive-bys, we suggested if you have a beef with somebody, go over there and handle it like a man. Walk up to him. Don't drive by in a car. Get off the car. Go handle your business. Go call the guy out. Or go do it like a gentleman. Walk up, put the gun to his head, and pull the trigger. Old school. That's what he's talking about right there. But that rule has never been followed. This rule is corrupted to the point where they commit drive-bys now. The standard is pull up in a car, they open the door, and they put 1 foot on the ground. So they can say they got out of the car, and then they shoot, and then they close the door and take off. That's how much this rule is corrupted, the no drive-by rule. And this is what he's talking about here. This is a very interesting thing because it happens in Los Angeles and Southern California all the time. Like everybody, San Diego, Ventura, Santa Barbara, Orange County, all these neighborhoods do this. They all commit this act. But the rule corrupted. In fact, when a gang first broke this rule, when the edict came out, they would be placed on a green light list. And all other neighborhoods would target them until the mafia took off the green light list. And that would come off by them paying X amount of money, giving up guns, and agreeing to put in work for the organization. Now it's just totally corrupted. In fact, there was one family in Artesia, the Weddle Buffs family would violate this rule all the time. They would go shoot at Hawaiian Gardens because they're from Artesia. When Hawaiian Gardens would retaliate, Weddle Buffs family would go sniveling to the Mexican Mafia members. We're Weddle Buffs family, they're shooting at us, and they would get Hawaiian Gardens put on the green light list. They were done wrong. There's a lot of corruption in this rule. He's talking about it right now, and that's what it revolves around. They were done wrong. There's a lot of corruption in this rule. He's talking about it right now, and that's what it revolves around.
That happens everywhere. And those guys that do that, they're hitting people that don't got nothing to do with nothing. They're shooting houses that don't got nothing to do with nothing. We're trying to stop that from happening. That's what we're trying.
By what way, Tommy? By what way?
Because they listen to us.
They do?
Yes, they do. They listen.
You guys
to
are
us.
in there and they're listening to
They listen to us. Every neighborhood out there listens to us. Because if they not, they pay the consequence for that. They listen to it. If I wanted to tell anybody from any neighborhood out there in LA to stop going, maybe we they're going to listen to me. Pelon, Michael, they're going to listen. That's a fact.
He's talking about his family's juice, right? Like, we're Cardenales. They're going to listen to us. They're not going to balk us. I mean, this is pretty overt. I'm just astounded that he's talking this way on the phone.
And if they don't, then when they come to the LA County or anywhere else, they're going to be in trouble. They know that. So what we're trying to do is for the good of people. We're not out there trying to start problems or nothing like that. People out there crying, they misinterpret what we're trying to do, but that's just the way it is out there. I can't help that, but we're trying to do the better. I'm telling guys, hey, stop doing that drive-by. You want to party?
They said they don't mind stopping the fighting. They just don't understand what the other's coming from.
Well, like I don't know what if there any other. There's no other. I don't know about others or anything like that. But
Why, Rocky is saying you're saying to get it.
Mary Lou, just look. All that stuff right there, it just that street stuff. It happens every day out there. It's going to happen when I'm gone. It's going to happen when everybody else is gone. It's going to always happen. But that ain't got nothing to do with you or Mama or Margie or nothing like that. As far as what happened to, if something happens in them neighborhoods to somebody that's related, hey, believe me, there's a lot of people that won't touch nobody that's related to us just because of who I am, who Michael is, who Pelon is. They're not going to mess with them. Nobody's trying to looking for problems with us.
And that's the truth. You'd have to be a fool to go mess with the family of a made Mexican Mafia member. That's an immediate elimination sentence. You will be eliminated. You will be targeted. You'd have to be deaf, dumb, and blind to go mess with the family of a Mexican Mafia member. It's the one thing the organization holds sacred. You know, one of the things that the organization still holds on to. It doesn't mess with families. It doesn't target families. And they will not tolerate people messing with their families. They hold fast and true to that. And that's the one admirable thing about the organization that still exists.
You know, so
I don't understand. I don't understand you that you're their uncles are putting them in
nobody's putting them in nothing.
now.
Nobody's putting them in nothing.
You're the uncle. You know that I feel embarrassed for. I really feel embarrassed when I heard all this stuff that was going on. I wish I would have knew that the day that Rocky was here. I would have threw his ass in the street.
Hey, hold up.
The day that I went to visit you, I would have told you to your face.
Hold up a minute. This cop's gonna come on the range. I gotta let the phone hang right here. He's gonna let me back out.
I remember this process, and it frustrated me greatly. This is in West Valley Detention Center, or the Central Detention Center. They call them ranges. The tiers are called ranges, right? And when an officer had to walk the tier, if you were on the phone, you had to lock up in your cell. Officer couldn't be on the tier with you because you're high power, you're maximum security. And every time you came out of your cell, you're handcuffed if you're not on the tier by yourself. So when an officer came to do count or deliver a piece of mail, or there was pill call for an inmate who's in the cell, locked in one of the cells on your range, you'd have to lock up. But they'd continue charging you while the phone was hanging on the wall. And at this time, I think it was like a $2 and something cents connection fee, and each minute costed over $1. So if the cop stood on the tier for 10 minutes, that cost you $10. Phone time was very expensive. This is before the state of California implemented regulations for phone costs. So it was very frustrating when a cop came on the tier and then somebody stopped him and asked for toilet paper. Another guy would ask him, where's the newspaper? Another guy would ask him, hey, can you pass this for me? Whatever it was costing you money, and it used to piss me off, as it does everybody. In fact, they're going to repeat this same subject matter over and over. Mary Lou's going to be insistent. If something happens to my grandkids, if this happens, it's because of you. I'm embarrassed because you're my brother, and they have to do this. You're making them do this. And that's not the case at all. Mary Lou's being a Karen right now. And that's really what it boils down to. Here are images of T-Bug Moreno in federal housing. He's currently in federal custody. He's been placed on disregard, and there's a lot of talk about eliminating him. Why? Why are they talking about eliminating Tommy Moreno? Why are the politics flying against the Morenos? Jesse Pelon Moreno is unscathed. Pete Moreno is unscathed in Arizona. Jesse Pelon Moreno is kicking it up in BOP, the Federal Bureau of Prisons, without dealing with any politics. And Pete Moreno is kicking it over in Arizona Department of Corrections. But Mike Moreno is dealing with the politics of being placed on disregard. And T-Bug Moreno is dealing with it right now. Why? Because he got involved with Fox Tapia and all his politics. Fox, he's like a cancer. He destroys everything and everybody around him. In fact, bad news about Fox. He's on the bad news list himself. And he no longer holds the stature that he once held. Nor does Mike Boo. And T-Bug Moreno is in question. He's in peril now. Why? What's the reason behind the huge focus on T-Bug Moreno? It started when T-Bug Moreno appeared in a trial that I testified. This is a federal RICO trial. The United States of America versus Jose Loza. Jose Loza is cartoon from Cantaranas. He went on trial for eliminating a Mexican Mafia member, along with a whole slew of RICO activities. So part of their defense was calling in Mexican Mafia members to testify as experts to rebut my testimony. In fact, I did not testify at Jose Loza's trial. But to preempt their anticipation of me appearing, they brought down two Mexican Mafia members, Güero Smooth Garcia and T-Bug Moreno. Güero Smooth did take the stand, but he didn't testify like T-Bug did. In fact, T-Bug Moreno went on to testify and shocked the world. In his testimony, he admitted to being a Mexican Mafia member. He admitted to all kinds of stuff. In fact, it's so extensive, I can't even cover it here. It necessitates its own episode, maybe 2 episodes. And that's going to be coming soon, folks. His testimony as a Mexican Mafia member, identifying Mexican Mafia members, talking about the organization, openly admitting to criminal activity, is sacrilegious to the organization. He's literally telling, and that's what a lot of brothers said. That's what a lot of brothers think. And I think as soon as he gets around the right people, he might be in for some trouble. And stand by for the reading of T-Bug's transcripts where he testifies as a Mexican Mafia expert. I think this is the biggest buffoonery ever. In fact, the individual he was testifying for, Cartoon Loza, got whacked in the feds. And T-Bug is on thin ice right now because of this testimony. But I'm going to bring it to you in a future episode. So do your part. Like the video. Subscribe. Leave a comment. Hype, hype, hype. I'm out. Peace.